So whether you were abused as a child or as an adult, it is very likely that your boundaries have been violated. And now, because of that, you might be really struggling to form healthy, secure attachments with people. Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm a counseling psychologist registered with HCPC here in the UK. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some characteristics of the avoidant and anxious attachments. So one of the attachments that we all really want to avoid to have is the anxious one. So one of the characteristics of this attachment is that people, they constantly ask for reassurance and validation. And that can happen in a context of a romantic relationship, but also it can happen in context of maybe your workplace with your work colleagues. The other characteristic it is that you might be actually threatening the other person that you're gonna leave them. You might be constantly questioning the commitment of the other person to this relationship. And then also you might be constantly actually getting into arguments and actually leaving the relationship, but then after some time going back. And that will be all underpinned by you constantly questioning the intentions of the other person, whether they really truly love you or whether they're just pretending to maybe be good to you. What is really common across all these characteristics is the fear that the person with anxious attachment will have. They will have a fear that the other person might leave them, so they're going to be very hyper vigilant for any signs that the other person might, for example, leave them, that the other person might be frustrated with them, and for that person that would be a sign that possibly they're planning to leave them, for example. So the person with anxious attachment will constantly look out for any signs of the other person wanting to leave them. And very often, if that fear will be really elevated in them, what they will do, they will act out certain situations where they will actually leave the other person themselves before someone else can actually leave them. Another really common characteristic for the anxious attachment is that the person will have this desire of wanting to be close to the other person, but then at the same time, they will be fearful of being too close to the person, try to be close, but then at the same time, maybe they will try to create the situations where maybe they will be able to avoid too much of closeness. And at the same time, the person also will have this need to seek the attention from maybe their partner. It will be also very difficult for that person to don't be in any relationship. So maybe if one of the relationship will finish, they will really rush up to be with someone else. The other attachment style, it is the avoidant one. And in this example, the person will, for example, start relationship, but then very early on will just look for signs explaining why the relationship is not going to work out. So the person will not give a chance to this relationship to develop to anything more serious. So very early on, the person will know, yes, that's the sign, this is not going to work out and we need to end it. And then they're going to just cut the ties with the person. And in addition to that, the person will be then afraid as well to show the emotional vulnerability. They're going to be afraid to actually be close emotionally with the other person. In addition to that, someone who has the avoidant attachment style, they're not gonna want to be dependent on the other person in any sort of way. So they're not gonna also never ask for help because they're gonna be self-sufficient. They're not gonna want to show any emotions, any vulnerabilities. They're gonna be afraid to share any of their vulnerabilities, whether it is emotions, whether it is maybe some information maybe about their family. In addition to that, people like that, they also feel very lonely. So whether they're in a relationship or whether they are on their own, they always feel lonely. And also they will have a huge problem with identifying and even acknowledging their emotions. And most likely you are actually unable to identify only with characteristics only of the avoidant attachment style or maybe the anxious attachment style. Because normally we actually swift in between them. There's never a clear cut between them. Yes, you might have been abused and you might have developed this anxious avoidant attachment style. But that doesn't mean that it has to be like that forever. we can shift in our adulthood from maybe anxious or avoidant attachment style into the secure one, and also the other way around as well. Sometimes it might actually take only one healthy relationship to move from the anxious attachment style into the secure one. So that would be the relationship where you will actually feel comfortable to be away from the partner and not start panicking that maybe they're planning to abandon you. That would be the relationship where you're gonna be able to actually regulate your emotions during the argument. That would be a relationship where you're gonna have more balanced view of yourself. So you're not gonna go into these extremes where, for example, you're gonna be very critical, very punitive about yourself. So that will be also a relationship where you feel comfortable to become emotionally vulnerable, and at the same time, you're gonna be able to feel comfortable when the other person will tell you about their struggles, about their difficult emotions, without you actually becoming emotionally overwhelmed. What do you think? How your negative life experiences have impacted how now you're attaching to people? So that will be it for today. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like it, subscribe, and make sure you're gonna hit that notification bell. So every time when I upload a short or a long video, you're gonna be notified. So you're not gonna lose out on any of this really interesting information. So I'm gonna see you in the next one then. Thank you. Bye-bye.